Thank you very much, and I'm extremely grateful to APEC for having given me this opportunity. I'm Dr. Joylene D. Almeida, and I reside in Mangalore, which is a city in the south of India. And I would like to talk to you today about understanding hypertension in pregnancy with a special focus in India. Before I begin, a little insight onto where exactly we stand. So, Mangalore is a small city in the south of India, and in Mangalore, we basically call it a medical hub because we have around nine medical colleges and referral hospitals right over here. And we have a lot of other smaller private nursing homes and medical colleges. Hypertension is like the elephant in the room here in Mangalore, in the south of India in particular. And a lot is not really spoken about it because when it comes to maternal mortality, postpartum hemorrhage, sepsis, is what usually takes the forefront. So, hypertension is something that is lingering around and has a lot of loopholes and things that could have been done to reduce the incident even further. With this, I'd like to move ahead and go over little statistics. The prevalence of hypertension in India is around 29.8% as per the NFHS, and globally, one woman dies every 7 minutes. But in India, the incidence of hypertension differs between the rural and the urban areas. It's responsible for 12 to 25% of the maternal mortality. And India, as such, battling the burden of non-communicable diseases and infectious diseases, and hypertension in pregnancy, which begins with hypertensive disorders in pregnancy, slowly moves on to cardiovascular diseases, and then chronic hypertension is now becoming a leading cause of illness among our women. Before I actually move on to the data that we have and the statistics and the studies that we're doing, want to just share a short story. Actually, a real life incident that happened a couple of months ago that sort of like went on and led to a domino effect and a lot of other policy changes and a lot of things that happened in order to reduce the incident of hypertension in India. So this is the story of Meera, and Meera belonged to. I hope I'm audible. I'm not getting any visual or auditory feedback. So, um, hello, am I heard?
You're still being heard, yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So this is a story of Meera, who belonged to was a 19-year-old girl who belonged to rural India, and she actually was recruited into the security system, basically the police system in India. She belonged to a very small village with very minimal access to healthcare, and she was recruited into the police system. She's probably the only one of the only few women in her village who were actually appointed with a job. So she belonged to a rural setup where access to healthcare was very minimum. She was barely educated, probably just finished her mid schooling, and then she was recruited into the security system. And Meera was a little happy little girl with very little info on healthcare, access, education, etc. And she went on to continue her job, got married at a very tender age of 16, 17, which is below the legal age of marriage. And so life just went on. Meera then went on to get pregnant, and then life sort of went on a whirlwind spiral. So Meera moved on to the city. She was posted at multiple places. She had irregular ANCs or checks. Her blood pressure at different points in her pregnancies were, as per retrospective records, were not really checked. She was a little ignorant, and a little bit of social cultural practices held her back on her antenatal checks. And one fine night at 2 a.m. In the early mornings, an ambulance brought a fitting Meera to the labor room casualty. She was having multiple episodes of convulsions. She was then diagnosed to have a massive abruption, went on to have an intrauterine fetal death. She was taken up for an emergency C-section, transfused with almost 8 units of blood post-operatively, had intraoperative postpartum hemorrhage, had a very clear call, a close call, and a near miss. And after that, it's been a downward trend for Meera, and she went on to have postpartum depression, lost her baby, etc. So this was an incident that came to the light only because she belonged to a very rural setup in India, and she belonged to the police system, and it sort of like created a whirlwind and a tide of emotions among the police officers, and this incident came in the papers, and it sort of like shook the entire healthcare system and told us what we're doing, especially in a small city like Mangalore, which has a lot of medical colleges and referral systems within them. A couple of learning stories that we learned from Meera's story were there was a delay in diagnosis and access to healthcare. And Mira's story highlighted the critical role of early detection and monitoring. In many rural parts of India, women like Mira fail to recognize the symptoms of preeclampsia only because of lack of education and knowledge. Healthcare infrastructure gaps, although on the outwards, it appears that we have a very strong and an easily accessible healthcare system in the cities. The rural parts of India are still short of trained healthcare workers and limited access to medical equipment. There is a lack of awareness and education, which I felt in my research of all the studies and in the cases that I've come across in my practice, that a lack of awareness and education, not just among the patients, but also among their families, is one of the leading causes of the rise in the incidence of hypertensive disorders of pregnancy. The healthcare policies in India and community care. So a study was done, which was called as the CLIP study, which evaluated the community interventions to reduce the incidence of preeclampsia, and that showed that the community interventions did not help much. And antenatal care in India at the village levels is provided by ASHA workers. They are also called as the accredited social healthcare activists, and they are actually after the incidence of Mira, they were then pushed to increase the antenatal visits and promote the monitoring of pregnant patients for hypertension. Another poor understanding is the long-term implications of having hypertension in pregnancy, its effect on future health, hypertension, heart disease, and postpartum care is another area in pregnancy in India, which requires a lot of work to be done in this particular field, especially in the cases of postpartum hypertension and postpartum depression. So a lot of learning lessons came from Mira's story. A root cause analysis showed that two major reasons for the rise of hypertension disorders in India is limited access to healthcare in rural India and a low awareness among the patients, the families, and also among certain healthcare practitioners. A clustering of lifestyles, smoking, alcohol intake beyond permissible limits, dietary predictors of diabetes, food consumption, a high BMI, low education levels, myths, misconceptions, and socio-cultural practices that hinder regular ANCs for pregnant women in India, challenges in transport. A lot of rural India is disconnected to the urban facilities, and this really proves to be a challenge. A lot of our patients, though because we as a hospital are a referral center, a lot of our patients have mishaps in transit, and lack of transport facilities is hello is a cause for the rise in hypertension, low socioeconomic status, lack of easy and expert antenatal care, a lack of accurate prediction models. So we do lack a lot in accurate prediction models, although I will share with you a couple of studies and models that have been done, and a scarcity of high dependency units in a lot of referral centers in India. The risk factors for hypertension in pregnancy our obesity and lifestyle, age, as we see, it's very common in women in the younger age group. A lot of young girls in India get married at the tender ages of 16, 17, 18, 19. They're high risk for preeclampsia, although teenage pregnancies are not as much as we would see in certain other parts of the world. Early marriages are definitely a risk factor because of which preeclampsia is on the rise. A previous history of hypertension, chronic diseases, and pre-existing diseases like diabetes and renal disorders, which are not really recognized during the antenatal checks. Um, I hope I'm still around. This is a study done by the Indian Academy of Pediatrics in the year 2001 by Parekh et al. And this showed that essential hypertension cases were less, and majority of the mothers in the study did not receive antenatal care, which were regular or minimal antenatal care. And most of the patients with eclampsia were with preeclampsia admitted as emergencies because there were no blood pressure records of their antenatal visits. This is a statistic from a long time back, and off late the changes have been made, and regular ANCs are being promoted through various incentives. 73% of people in the study were emergency admissions and not regular elective admissions based on antenatal care. Hypertension is a disorder of the primary gravida, and young women under the age of 20 and women above the age of 30 were at a high rise. A high perinatal mortality is associated with hypertension in pregnancy. These were shown by these studies conducted in India with acute or chronic uteroplacental insufficiency. Our incidence of preterm babies and low birth weight babies and prematurity causing a high risk of perinatal morbidity, mortality, are also have been seen because of hypertension disorders. We have a couple of studies, not really concrete evidence, but there is an association that hypertension in pregnancy going undetected causes intrauterine hypoxia and is associated with autism and other developmental disorders in children, even if blood pressure was not in the ranges that would alarm us. Birth at 6 years was also high in the cases of preeclampsia and a still high birth rate. as we had seen in Mira's story. Hypertensive disorders of pregnancy, and there is a risk of diabetes. This was studied in Indian women as a cross-sectional study. India is slowly moving on to become the diabetic capital of the world. Most of the cities in India, and we're becoming the non-communicable disease hub. Diabetes, obesity, hypertension is completely on the rise, and hypertensive disorders of pregnancy are very much associated with Indian women. And it is also a lesser known fact, a lack of understanding that hypertension disorders of pregnancy can be associated with cardiovascular risk and diabetes later on in life. It's a marker for cardiovascular diseases. Socio-cultural practices in India are one of the preliminary factors why hypertension on the rise. 21% of women in India use ANC services fully. It's only 21%. And illiteracy and belonging to socially disadvantaged groups in India are contributing factors as to why women did not utilize ANC services and why hypertension is on the rise. Family is very much involved in antenatal and postpartum care of Indian women, and lack of education of family, and also certain myths and sociocultural practices that inhibit patients from going to regular ANCs to the doctor, taking medications like low dose aspirin. A lot of myths and misconceptions revolving around this lack of education information is an important cause. In India, hypertensive disorders vary based on incidence, based on the location and the social cultural factors. This is because India has a very diverse and a unique ecology, and every part of India has its own practices, own religious practices, food practices, marriage practices, etc. And this study identified that 1 out of 11 women suffered from hypertension disorders, and the incidence of hypertension differed based on the area. So Western India, it was 7.8%, in the northern region, 6.9%, and the state with the highest prevalence was Haryana, and the lowest prevalence was Haryana, and the highest prevalence was Tripura, which was in the northeast. The management of care of hypertension of pregnancy, an Indian expert opinion in 2019 suggested these recommendations based on a lot of stories of Indian women who lost their lives due to hypertension, especially like Meera. Ideally, a minimum of 4 antenatal visits are included, including the first registration and the first ANC, and this has been mandatory for all pregnant women to have at least 4 minimum ANCs. A risk assessment, which was not being done earlier for hypertension of pregnancy, is done at the booking visit. The physician then makes an antenatal plan and decides what tests are required based upon their hypertension disorder score. Dietary advice is given to pregnant women, and this is another important factor that features in the incidence of hypertension in pregnant women in India is nutritional deficiency. Nutritional deficiency and lack of antioxidants, oxidative stress, etc., is an important contributor to rising cases of preeclampsia in India. If a woman has high blood pressure, she's then rechecked every 6 hours. The blood pressure is high. Her urine is checked for proteinuria, and these are very basic preliminary tests that must be done at the primary healthcare level in rural India. And even a single blood pressure reading in a pregnant woman at any antenatal visit was recommended by the expert committee to be taken as a danger sign, because most often in India, because of our social cultural practices, women assume that hypertension can be because of the salt that is at the end of food, because of stress, etc. And they sort of like tied away high blood pressure. But even a single reading should be taken as a danger sign. Solutions that were given by the expert panel based on a lot of cases in India. Pre-pregnancy counseling, another field which is very much lacking and requires a lot of work to be done. Of course, other than postpartum counseling and postpartum education, pre-pregnancy counseling is important. There is a need of extensive clinical research to be done in this field. Surveillance, which is now has improved over the last few years. Awareness programs, and these awareness programs are not just for the patients, but also for their family members and for the healthcare providers. Antenatal care program and a plan which is made mandatory of every registered pregnancy. Robust tools. I was listening to the research studies and a lot of tools that are being implemented for screening as a part of the NHS and a lot of other colleges in the UK. It sort of like made my heart sink a little and said, maybe in a couple of years' time, it will be a part of routine care. There are a lot of good hospitals and referral centers in India which are using the PLGF and antenatal screening clinics for preeclampsia, but there are a lot of places where this is yet to come onto the forefront. So we do need robust diagnostic tools to detect hypertension pregnancy at early stages, to avoid the complications that occur because of the early onset preeclampsia, and appropriate training to healthcare practitioners. So as medical educators as well as teachers, we do conduct regular training programs for our interns and our residents who work at the primary health level in the government setup. We do train them on how to manage preeclampsia and how to refer them to a higher center on the appropriate use of magnesium sulfate and antihypertensives. But even now, despite the training which has gone quite around, and I'm a state trainer for obstetric emergencies for undergraduates, postgraduates, and residents. Even after so much of training, we still find a lot of people referring patients with an eclamptic seizure without that loading dose of magnesium sulfate. So again, I would stress on the need for education and the spread of information among healthcare providers. Management and prevention, the knowledge that low-dose aspirin can help reduce the incidence of preeclampsia in high-risk women, and a timely medical intervention like regular antenatal visits, regular blood pressure monitoring, and management of risk factors like obesity and diabetes pre-pregnancy can go a long way in reducing the incidence of preeclampsia. The government has a lot of initiatives like the National Health Mission to reduce maternal mortality, and our community health workers are like the pieces of our chess game. They're the ones that are at the forefront in rural India. They're being trained, but the training has to be more effective, and education has to be more firm and solid and consolidate. Help them to improve regular health checks and early intervention for high blood pressure during pregnancy. Postpartum hypertension, again, as I stressed about the pre-pregnancy, postpartum hypertension is very much neglected because hypertension persists after delivery. A lot of cases of eclampsia that come to our referral center are in patients who have been discharged from their rural centers and gone home and had an eclamptic seizure at home. So there is a lack of knowledge that hypertension can persist even after delivery. It can move on to chronic hypertension and cardiovascular diseases. A study was done by FOXY, which is the Federation of Obstetric and Gynecological Societies of India. It's a leading obstetrical body in India that formulates the policies and the guidelines. And it suggested that 51% of women died around the peripartum and immediate postpartum with hypertension results of pregnancy and obstetric hemorrhage. And though HTP does not alter the progression of the disease, early management decreases not only the frequency of hypertensive complications, but even the neonatal complications. And this is a known fact that if we prevent the complications in the mother, the neonatal complications also can be avoided. A look out into the future, things like poverty, malnutrition, and poor obstetric facilities, which are always a hindrance and are slowly being tackled day in and day out. A history of preeclampsia and eclampsia during the previous pregnancy should always alert a clinician to provide preventive antenatal counseling. More vigilant screening for diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and lifestyle disorders will go a long way in reducing the incidence of preeclampsia, especially in a country like India that's constantly battling non-communicable diseases. Preeclampsia clinics, which is a new boon that has sort of like turned up in our medical colleges and our hospitals and our referral centers. Recently, we have begun a preeclampsia clinic at our center as well. I'm sure this is something that is a routine in the UK, but because of a lot of constraints, these are slowly and steadily coming up in different parts of our country. I'd like to share a line on that just after this. Women should be encouraged to have a more rigorous follow-up and adopt a healthier lifestyle, patient and healthcare provider education, and the use of technology, particularly the use of telemedicine and mobile health apps. So this is the medical college hospital that I work with. I work in the city of Mangalore. And on World Preeclampsia Day, which was on the 22nd of May, we inaugurated our preeclampsia screening clinic in collaboration with the Society of Fetal Medicine. And the protocol that we designed for the preeclampsia clinic was we decided that based on our OP numbers, we do a risk assessment and a counseling of the patient. We counsel them about the complications of hypertension, take their consents. We then move on to combine a Doppler screening of the uterine artery along with the NT scan, a regularly done test, but till now in our centers was being done only in certain cases. Now it is being regularly implemented to do the screening artery Doppler with the NT scan. We then move on to do the markers in patients who we find positive for the uterine artery Doppler, the PLGF marker test, which is a tad bit expensive in our part of the country. It's available in the metropolitan cities, but in our part of the country, in smaller cities, it's still sort of like on the rise. So we decided to work on a model that we could provide these to our patients, and we work at a charitable hospital, so to provide these tests at very reasonable rates. And then we move on to regular monitoring and charting. We decided to maintain a registry of our preeclampsia patients at the clinic, so we could get back to the patients. And like someone mentioned earlier in one of your talks, if the patients cannot come to us, we decided that we'd move on and go to the patients and maintain a registry and stress the need of postnatal follow-up for postpartum hypertension. This was an interesting study that was recently done in April 2024. It was a prediction of preeclampsia by the HTP Gestosis scoring by Anupama Upadhyay, and a simple risk model for the hepatitis in adults of pregnancy gestosis scoring was done by Dr. Gorak Mandrukpur. And he decided that he would score the pregnancy based on the number of risk factors, one risk factor, two or three or more risk factors, and then he would divide them into mild, moderate, and severe risk of hypertension. And women who had a score of equal to or more than 3 were labeled as high risk of preeclampsia. And they decided that this was a simple mobile app-based gestosis scoring system, which provided the healthcare provider in our large OPD numbers with a dearth of time. A small mobile-based gestosis scoring system could quickly help us assess an individual woman's need in the OPD and their risk for hypertension and help us to proceed accordingly. This tool had a good sensitivity of 72.2%, a high specificity of 94.6%, and a high predictive accuracy of 91.6%. And this was the mobile-based app. Like a lot of other interventions that are being done, we have a thesis postgraduate study on the ophthalmic artery Doppler. We have done another one on the thickness of the choroidal plexus of the eye. So a lot of predictive tests are being done with preeclampsia as the center focus. So I'd like to conclude by saying that hypertension pregnancy are still in a relatively high incidence in India. Pregnant women who are at risk have to be identified. The regularity of our antenatal care has to be stressed and reinforced. There is a need of education, and that is what was the key message that I wanted to carry today. More than the research and the screening tools that we require to be provided at affordable rates to our patients, we require education among our consultants, our students, our residents, our patients, and their families about the need for regular antenatal care and screening for hypertension. We have to strengthen our maternal health programs and develop comprehensive guidelines focusing on prevention, early diagnosis, and management. These are my references, and I thank you for your patient listening.